Because as we know, documentary filmmakers are rolling in money. They are so... If you want to make a lot of money...
Feature documentary filmmaking. Make one product every 3 years. That's
feature
how you know
docs, to any aspiring filmmakers listening to this podcast, yes, if you want to make a lot of money, make a documentary. Hey, it's Chris Gore. Welcome to another episode of the Film Thread podcast. Today, we're talking to Michael Sparaga, the documentary filmmaker behind United We Fan, and he's brought along with him a special guest. That's right, Adam Bartley. He's Sheriff's Deputy Archie the Ferg Ferguson from Longmire. I can't wait to have this conversation with them about all things television. It's going to be great. A couple of quick reminders. Visit filmthreat.com every day. We have new film reviews on a daily basis, like 3 to 5 new reviews a day. And if you're an indie filmmaker and you'd like to see your film reviewed on Film Threat, just go to filmthreat.com. Go down to the bottom. There's a little button called Submit. We will review your movie, short films, animated films, your web series, your feature, your documentary. Just click on Submit at Film Threat. We will review your movie. In addition, please support us. Follow us on social media. We're Film Threat on everything. I'm that Chris Gore. If you'd like to see what I'm up to lately, I'll just say this. I've been going to a lot of holiday parties, and this explains my scratchy voice. And also, if you'd like to support Film Threat's efforts to travel to film festivals and continue to bring you this podcast, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Film Threat, or just look up Film Threat on Patreon. Just help support our efforts. I cannot wait for you guys to discover this movie, United We Fan. Oh my God. I watched this documentary twice. Loved it. It's just, if you're a passionate fan of all things television and you've ever had a show canceled, there's hope. There are passionate fans out there that have saved shows, and the methods and the things that they've done to save those shows, those are revealed in this documentary, United We Fan. So I'm excited to talk to Michael and Adam. Well, let's talk about fandom and crazy fandom. And let's talk about the new documentary, United We Fan, by director Michael Sparaga, who's here in studio all the way from Toronto. Mm-hmm. Toronto, you don't pronounce that T.
Toronto.
Toronto.
There's actually no O's in it. It's Trana. Tranta. Oh. So people in Toronto say, I'm from Toronto.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, you almost can't hear any of the O's.
And I love Canada, if only for the beer and the hockey. And
those are good reasons.
The kindness, too.
And we're also honored to have on the podcast from Longmire, Adam Bartley.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming on the show. This is like a double podcast here. This is fantastic.
I'm happy to be here. It's awesome.
I love this documentary mainly because I mean, the movie opens at WonderCon where you're interviewing people and asking them if they know who Bjo Trimble is, and I raise my hand passionately. I know who Bjo Trimble is. Bjo Trimble, for those who don't know, is the woman who saved Star Trek.
Yeah.
She is the woman who did the first ever letter writing campaign to NBC at the time to save Star Trek in that second season when it didn't look like it was going to get picked up. Bjo organized all that. She was passionate about it. Her and her husband, who, I mean, they're delightful in the film, by the way.
They're lovely.
They're amazing. And the film is about passionate fans and how they have saved great television. And it's, first of all, I can't believe that you were able to cover all of this in, movies like just over 90 minutes.
Yep.
It's about maybe 100 minutes?
Under 100.
Under 100.
Over 90, yeah.
Incredible, because you go through the entire history, starting with Bjo and then many other shows, and even getting into other layers. I just want to ramble on about how much I love this film because it starts off where you're at WonderCon interviewing people, and then delves into that initial Star Trek campaign, and then multiple other campaigns, including the campaign to save Longmire. So this is all very exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did you get involved? Where did this project come from?
I love TV. I'm just obsessively love TV. It occupies a good portion, a too big portion of my day. Could you say too big? Too big.
You can say too big
portion of my day.
Yeah.
I grew up on it. I sat in front of it. I'm one of those people who, when somebody says, "Oh, I bet you don't even remember the show," I usually remember that show.
Right.
It's the show that I was a huge fan of when I was 13. Was a show called Crime Story, which, do you remember that show?
Yes, I do.
Love Crime. Dennis Farina, Michael Mann's other show that wasn't Miami Vice, had a violence warning. I shouldn't have been watching it. I was 13. I mean, it had like one of those really like hardcore warnings before the show began. Which
is only an incentive to see it. Every time you saw those as a kid, it was like, oh, I am not turning the channel.
I think the CNN doc about the 90s featured that show as being a very sort of game-changing show.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, Sopranos, they said it wouldn't have existed without it. Was serialized. You never saw serialized shows back then. It was all procedural. Miami Vice was procedural with a little bit of an arc sort of going on.
And
with
a big mustache.
Yeah. And, oh, man, Dennis Farina's mustache was fantastic.
Amazing.
That thick Chicago accent and him chasing, Ray Luca. It was just fantastic. I mean, I love that show. And I read in my local paper, Niagara Falls, it was going to be canceled. And that was the first time I sort of knew anyone besides me watched it, because I couldn't even recommend it to my friends because their parents would be like, Michael's allowed to watch that show? And I would get in trouble. Like, I probably shouldn't have been watching that show. And so it was the fact that my local critic thought enough about the show to put that in the paper that here's the address if you want to try and save it. It might not come back. And it was just this huge cliffhanger. It was like a nuclear bomb went off in the Nevada desert, and you thought the lead characters might have all got wiped out, but you didn't know. And that's how they ended the first season. So you can't, it's almost like somebody being shot out on a ridge somewhere.
Right.
You don't know who This sound familiar?
Right.
Like leave people with a cliffhanger, give them something to fight for. Totally. They need to know the answer. And that happened with Longmire. It was exactly one of those things where if you do that to fans, you're just going to rev them up. And it did. And it came back. It got a second season. And it just stuck with me. It was democratic before I could participate in democracy. I mean, there was 5 kids in my household, so there was some democracy. 3 against 2 would usually do it, but couldn't cast a vote anywhere. But this felt like I voted, and my person won. And the show came back for a second season.
Wow.
And that's just kept my eye on it. Just love them.
What's interesting is that you document the beginnings of how people would save TV shows before the internet. I feel like the internet has made it fairly easy. You see when certain things are trending on Twitter, like, oh, okay, I guess that's a new episode of Game of Thrones. Who died? What happened? But before the internet, how did people do that? It's interesting also that you included Mike Duffy's TV column.
Do you remember Mike Duffy?
I read him religiously as a kid. Read Mike Duffy's column on TV. I don't know. He was from, is he the Detroit Free Press?
Yeah, Detroit Free Press,
Yeah, but he was never he wasn't
syndicated. He wasn't syndicated. Detroit
at all?
was big enough. That was a real big city back in the day when he was writing. So,
I read Mike Duffy religiously with his column and of course certain critics and whatnot. But yeah, his column was amazing. He definitely he definitely involved himself in activism related to television shows getting canceled.
You needed that. You still need it. You absolutely still need the media on board, even for the Longmire campaign. It's funny you say it's so much easier, but then I hear the fan activist for Longmire talk about the 22-hour days that she was putting in with her iPad.
Oh, really? Wow.
Do we blow could we just say who the fan activist was who saved Longmire?
Sure. Absolutely.
So the fan activist was?
My aunt.
You're kidding?
No,
we got to get into this. How did she save it? How did she?
Well, the crazy part is, first of all, I one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was getting on to Longmire 7-8 years ago when I had just moved to town. I had been a stage actor my whole life, and I got on the show, and as a regular, playing a Deputy Ferguson, and I'm on the show, and my aunt, who lives up in Oregon, was literally just like. So excited for me, wanted to be a support, and she is a social media person. She has been working in advertising and sales for many years. She's done a lot of great things, and she's just started to, I'm going to make a fan site. I'm going to make one of the first fan sites. I'm just going to do this because I support my nephew. And, at first it was kind of like, well, that's great, and that's awesome. And then it started to grow and pretty soon it started to get pretty big. And then after the 3rd season, everything was going so well. We were the highest rated show on A&E. Couldn't have gone better. It went down. They canceled us, so they weren't going to renew us. We were all completely shocked.
Yeah.
And my aunt called me and said to me, this isn't done. No. we're just getting started. And I swear, she organized then with all of us huge sort of Twitter festivals and Facebook postings. It was what do we call it? I forget what she called it. Thank you. Stampedes. Longmire Stampedes. We do them for an hour. And we got everybody in on it. All the actors would go. We'd all make videos. We'd all get everybody, amped up. We'd get everybody there at the same time. People all across the country joined Facebook for the first time, joined Instagram for the first. They never wanted to do any of this stuff. And here they are on all of the social media platforms, going full bore, tweeting 10 times a minute, and it became this beautiful thing because the way we were doing it was, showing and retweeting pictures. The actors would share pictures from the set, and all of a sudden, and we talk about moments and memories, and we would start things like, because of this, because Ferg deserves another shot to be a good deputy, because we'd use pictures from the show, pictures from behind the scenes.
It was positive. It was super positive.
Very positive.
I sat there and read your tweets, and it was emotional and positive. It felt like it was the only show. I mean, I think for every fan fighting for a show, it feels like it's the only show, but it really felt with your fans like this was the show that was the only show they watched on TV. They really loved it so much. It had an older audience, right? Like a little bit older than...
Yeah, it's skewed slightly older, sort of across the central of the country more so. It was not by any means not as much of a coastal show, although when going to Netflix, it's become more of a coastal show. I get recognized more in LA over the last few years than I ever did.
Well, I have to admit... and this will explain my mispronunciation.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I'm still letting it go too.
Don't let it go. Call me out. No, I have not seen the show.
Right.
I have not seen the show, and yet you're standing here. You're right in front of me.
Well,
but can I tell you how many people have told me I should watch it?
Yeah, right.
And that I would love it. Yeah. And the fact that it's on Netflix, it's that convenience, right?
It's right there.
I can start with season 1.
Yeah.
And I can go all the way through.
Yeah.
And so yes, I need to. Yeah, a very close friend has said, "Why aren't you watching this?"
Well, I mean, these days,
your aunt convinced me.
Yeah, and she's incredible, and she went all in and devoted her life and then many years after that to continue to keep getting us more seasons, and she flew out to Santa Fe to go on set. We threw a big party for her. Everybody got a chance to thank her personally.
That's crazy.
But and she became she would come and be there for a week and just come to set all the time, be on set there, and everybody.
Has she been on the show?
No, she wasn't. Yes, she was. She was. I'm sorry, she was. She did come in on the last season. We got her in the Red Pony. So she's featured in the Red Pony. You can see her actually in a scene that I'm in, like sitting right behind me, which was so fun. But she did it, and meanwhile the producers were pitching the show to Netflix and other places, and I know for a fact that Netflix looked and were very aware of what was happening and what was going on during that time.
Well, you offered Netflix something they didn't have. People who probably didn't understand the technology of how to get onto Netflix.
Right. That's what they want.
You showed them how to be online. So you had this ringleader, your aunt, saying, this is what Twitter is. I mean, I saw she had tutorials. I mean, she showed people who
she did
how to use this stuff, and they thought, okay, if they can use that, they could probably figure out a Roku or an Apple TV at this point. Then,
oh my God, I love Roku. Roku and Netflix
insane,
is like
right?
the perfect. I have it on every TV.
That's
you have
hilarious.
to have a Roku box on every TV. You just put your app on everything, and it's
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
She did that.
Yeah.
She brought all these people in. So if they said to themselves, 6 million people are watching this, and for some reason A&E is canceling it, let's say. And her numbers on her social media are insane. It keeps going up. The show's not on anymore. And I keep looking at the Facebook, and it's like 130,000 people.
I get
on Facebook.
30 messages a day still. Are there going to be movies? Is there a chance? Is there a chance?
No, I'm getting those. I'm actually getting those. It's like I said, look, any fan base that continues to show itself with strength the way it is in a world where streaming services are looking to add subscribers as a chunk and at once. Obviously, it's Netflix now. Netflix has got to look at that. I mean, I think Longmire going is the reason you saw that Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin show happen. Because they're like, oh, we've got these people here. Yeah. Don't have to worry about advertising.
And the producers of that show actually love Longmire.
Did they?
Oh, not just that, they wrote Longmire into their script.
Oh my gosh, that is.
And here's another funny story. One of the people that work on that show, they told me, her name is Molly, she loved that the producers loved Longmire, and that the executive producer of that show, Grace and Frankie, loved Longmire the most. And so I did a video on set of all the actors saying happy birthday to the executive producers of Grace and Frankie. And then a few episodes later, they wrote our show into their show. And so it's kind of a funny little factoid. But I wanted to say one more thing about the whole Apple TV Roku thing. The biggest opponent we had to converting these fans to Netflix once we did get picked up was the fans that were just like, nope, cable's enough. I'm not paying the extra money for Netflix. I'm not doing it. And it was wild. And to see my aunt sort of systematically break down the mentality, and sort of as we're shifting into a more streaming sort of technology for television and getting it how we want, when we want, this idea of trying to convince people to change from the normal, $90 a month to $7.99 a month at the time. And it's a pretty easy argument at the end of the day.
And it started to come through televisions, which I think really start to help. Like you didn't necessarily, at least where I'm from, you can have a TV cable subscription and Netflix will be part of it built in through the cable box now.
Right.
So you don't actually have to get that extra piece of equipment that you're like, what wire?
That's right.
How?
Smart TVs.
Smart TV.
It's interesting. My friend who loves it, her parents are obsessed with it. They're obsessed with the show.
Right.
They're gonna be very excited that you're here right now.
Right.
So I can't wait to let her know. But tell me about like all this. This is an incredible success story. This happening, but there are also ones where there have been, it hasn't been so successful.
Most aren't.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to make a TV show that executives decided with pretty good reasons, certainly financial reasons and a whole bunch of other reasons, to say we're going to stop this moving forward, and get them to change their mind. Outside of this year, where I think we've seen 6 or 7 shows come back, it's one every couple of years. Maybe the best year was 2. It's rare. The things are just canceled. That's just how it goes. But the best of them, in a very short time, sometimes can get a very loyal, very vocal fan group, usually a group that really heartily identifies with the show. It represents their moral outlook. It represents their identity. It represents their gender. It represents something really deep in them.
Well, I forgot who said it in your documentary, but there's a woman who had this whole, she was just talking about how the television shows you invite into your home, those characters that are on those shows become your family.
Yeah.
They become the people that you check in on. You want to know how they're doing. Yeah. You're living, they are, in a sense, that they become real to you. Yeah. And so the things that happen to them are quite, especially there's a section where you talk about characters getting killed off.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I mean, that was just, it's just amazing to see like how the fandom.
Well, fans and creators have a very strange relationship now. It's very, that's true. Very easy. Well, I don't think your creators are on social. I don't think so.
They're not.
They're not.
They got on social to join and follow Pam.
And help fight. They did at that point.
They joined,
they haven't tweeted really since. That was sort of like that fight,
just
right?
That one time, yeah.
But that's not the case, as you know, with a lot of creators now who really, we have Rob Thomas in the movie who says, I go on Twitter to see if things worked. He's sitting in an audience, essentially in a theater, every week that Veronica Mars or iZombie screens, and through Twitter that's his audience. He's hearing the oohs and the ahs and the how could they, and when characters die, it's a DVD extra that we have, which is a thing about the relationship between fans and creators. And one thing Rob says is, fans obviously have opinions, and it's just that they never would have voted for Ned Stark to have his head lopped off. They wouldn't vote for that. And yet it's the best medicine for them. That's what you have to be able to take these huge tragedies, and Longmire's full of tragedies of characters that don't make it or get shot, and
right.
That's no spoilers, please. I haven't watched Longmire now that I know how to pronounce it.
And then that wipeout scene in the bar. Whoa, that was crazy. It's like I didn't picture that guy coming in with the Uzi like that.
But it's interesting because social media as an it's basically you're getting an instant read on the audience.
Yes.
It's what they used to do with focus group testing.
Yeah.
Right. To see, well, let's see what people liked. What was the percentage of people who liked it? I mean, now you can run algorithms, and I'm told that you can figure out like how well a film at the box office is going to do based on the Twitter reaction on a Thursday or a Friday.
That's crazy.
That's how crazy. Yeah. So it really is for the creators of their shows. But I agree. Like, do you want everything to work out for Robb Stark, like in Game of Thrones? Like I feel like if it was left to the audience, they would want happy endings for all of the characters, and it wouldn't go to the places that I think the creators intend.
I have an interesting thought on this. I did a 3-episode arc on This Is Us, the show that's on right now, and I did that during the first season. And when I got the role, we wasn't really sure where it was going. I don't know that the writers were that sure. It was basically the role of this guy who was sort of kind of trying to come in and steal Kate away from Toby, and that was what was happening, and they had written my character to be multidimensional, not just kind of a bad boy, but a guy with heart who really wanted her to see him, and they had written it like this. And we filmed these scenes, over the course of the 3 episodes. And then I got the final script, and it was completely, I couldn't believe, but they had written me out of the show. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And I mean, maybe that was the plan all along. But what I really discovered was that from watching the show was that these characters, the producers could not allow these characters on that show to make huge mistakes, to make huge grave errors, because people were so emotionally invested. Yeah. The idea that as soon as they saw me, in the first episode, as soon as they saw me, they were like, I
don't like this guy.
I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
And so they didn't.
I didn't like you.
They didn't air the scene. They didn't air the scenes that showed me as a 3-dimensional character.
Oh.
And that to me was like, this is interesting. That there is a pulse going on.
Yeah.
That they are watching. And to see what the audience is saying, and it does inform.
Just what creators want, right? Another set of notes.
Yeah, right.
You're getting them, but you're getting them in real time.
Well, I appreciate we're talking about another show that I don't watch. And I always thought it was pronounced This Is Oos, but now I thank you for the correction.
Joke of the day. You should do that for just everything.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to mispronounce all the
Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
I feel bad saying this at this point. Her name is Bjo Trimble.
Is it Bjo?
It is Bjo. It's Betty Jo, shortened to Bjo.
That's
Bjo.
But I was going to let Bjo go through this whole thing, but because it's become recurring, I'm just Bjo Trimble. It's Bjo Trimble.
Oh wow! I'd only ever seen it in print.
Yeah,
I would read Starlog magazine with the Carrie O'Quinn column, and there would always be mentions of. I thought it was Bijou, but it's Bjo.
Betty Jo shortened.
And I know that when Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out, I mean, I was.
Yep.
At the time, I had saved money from my newspaper route, and I bought a VCR. And every time there was a mention of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I would record it. The cast was on Good Morning America. Wow. There was a review on the Siskel and Ebert show. There was my VCR was literally the pause button watching television for mentions or trailers. And SNL, Saturday Night Live at the time, always ran movie trailers.
Yeah.
So I would watch Saturday Night Live to record the trailers to movies, and I had a cassette that was just movie trailers from like the late 70s, early 80s. This is what a nerd I am.
Wow.
But I never did any sort of write-in campaign. But reading about those was incredible. How did you pull all this together? Because the documentary is really the entire history. It's starting with Bjo and Star Trek, then moving on to the Viewers for Quality Television.
That's an incredible story.
And that's an incredible story, that whole organization. And then bringing up to today with Twitter and social media and Netflix being an option and shows being saved and going to other... I mean, this is something I don't even remember as a kid, like a show being saved and then going to another network. Now that option's available, it really is like...
That's changed everything,
It's changed the game. The game is... How did you... there's just so much to this story. You took a book's worth of material and condensed it into this doc, which I'm glad to hear that the DVD, which I know Brian Gelden is going to send me a copy of it.
Great.
He is totally going to send, because those extras, I'm all about the extras on that.
50 minutes of extras.
50 minutes of
50 minutes of extended scenes. The Longmire scene's almost twice the length because
Okay,
it's spectacular. We have extended Chuck's scene. We've got an extended Veronica Mars scene. We have deleted scenes that really expand the business side of things from the person of interest story. We had I think
that was great.
Greg Pledgeman opened up his home to us, and he's the EP showrunner along with Jonah Nolan of Person of Interest. But he let us, his show is just canceled, and he let us come into his home and film with him. And just as life went from 7 days a week, 24/7, you know, the people who run a show, to nothing. He's just sitting there at home in his pajamas, 11 a.m., emailing his friends who are all showrunners of other show, like, what's going on? Want to have lunch? I mean, it's just like his life is so changed, and he's hurt. He's hurt. CBS hurt him. And so we've got this really great scenes where you're getting to the business of what owning both sides is. Like why Person of Interest was really canceled, which is, you know, Warner Brothers Television made it, and then CBS aired it. And of course, CBS then can't sell it around the world because Warner Brothers can. So Warner Brothers is making all the money selling Person of Interest in France and all these other places. And they're just getting this first run. There's not even summer reruns anymore. Used to be, that saved Cagney and Lacey. Summer reruns saved that show because you got a chance to have the second shot at the ratings going back up to bring the show back. And so it was this incredible stuff that we got with Greg, and that's all in the DVD extras, plus this really great scene about fans and creators interaction, how they feel about fans talking to them, and an extra Star Trek scene, and it's just great. 50 minutes, you're going to love it, DVD. And Brian will for sure send it.
Brian will take it.
Brian PR. We call him Brian Gelden PR.
Brian Gelden PR.
He'll send it.
But
yeah.
but I'm just amazed that you were able to condense so much into such a short. I mean, it's you know, what 50 years of television history.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Condensed into this. I mean, it's an epic documentary.
And yet I know fans whose shows are sort of either barely mentioned or not mentioned. That's why the very last credit of the film that just lingers on screen is, we apologize to any fans whose campaigns aren't here. Every one of them deserve to be in here. It really was about, because I tell people, I told the border guard crossing over from Canada, purpose of your business, travel, business, what are you doing? I'm a documentary filmmaker. What's the movie? It's called United We Fan. And if you know anybody, pitching them the film, they're like, did you do Family Guy? It's like they're saying that like at the border. It's like Family Guy was actually saved by DVD sales, and it was about second run on the Cartoon Network, and that was getting really high ratings. So they realized they should bring it back. And so I have to be like the expert in shows like, what is Arrested Development in there? There's a mention of it, but fans made their own, right? They made their own documentary. They talked to Ron Howard. They talked to everybody. So how am I going to get those people to come back and be in another film about it? And the same with Firefly and Serenity. The Browncoats, which is an incredibly strong fan group, they made their own documentary again. So it's they should be in there. Should they? Yes, they absolutely should be in. Save Our Blues should be there. It's just covered already.
Well, this begs the question: how did you get this made? Did you do a Kickstarter? Did you get how did you pull it together to get? Because as we know, documentary filmmakers are rolling in money. They are so. If you want to make a lot of money,
feature documentary filmmaking. Make one product every 3 years. That's how you know
docs. To any aspiring filmmakers listening to this podcast, yes, if you want to make a lot of money, make a documentary. Feature doc. No, I mean, it's to me, I always say like making a doc. It's like community service. It's you are you're doing this out of passion. So how did this all come about for you to be able to spend 3 years of your life on a doc that is premiering tonight, actually?
Yeah, here in LA.
Premieres tonight.
Yeah, here in LA.
In Los Angeles, yeah.
Well, it's been on the festival circuit. It hit some big all the sort of big doc festivals, Hot Docs, AFI Docs, Doc NYC, and the audience for people coming out, they're excited. They cheer. I can't wait for you to see it tonight.
Oh, no. I mean, look, if it got me up off my couch cheering.
Sweet.
It's going to be a crowd pleaser. I mean, there are laugh out loud moments.
Yeah.
Hysterical
in your scene, in Adam's scene specifically.
Yeah. Oh my God! And then I don't want to spoil anything. Just say this movie with a crowd, it will be huge.
And yet, I'm making a movie about television. So this was this thing, and it's like, are people going to go to a big screen to see stories about small screen victories?
Right.
But these stories deserve to be told. And I think also documentary, with Netflix having them so available, literally be like, oh, that sounds amazing. What is on Netflix? I'll be like, or you could just come see it. I mean,
Right.
there's another opportunity. It's one thing about people watching a ton of docs is fantastic, that Netflix has opened this opportunity. But then it gets people thinking like, perfect, Netflix is for documentaries and, you know, the theaters are for Avengers. And you still need to find this space for yourself, especially if you work so hard. You want a chance to see it with an audience. And obviously the social media on this film is, because I have all these fandoms, I'm able to see what people are saying and it's great. So I kind of have a little bit of audience reaction, but there are plenty of docs that wouldn't necessarily have audiences online savvily talking about the things that they love about it. So I feel you need to go to festivals with your film.
Oh no, absolutely.
To reward yourself for that effort.
It's first of all, it's fun to see it in front of an audience. That and the best part about festivals is I don't think that movies there are tainted by marketing.
Yes.
And by that I mean like there's a description in the program guide that's a paragraph and that's it. And maybe one photo. You don't. And a lot of times the poster isn't the final poster or
it wasn't
key
for
art.
us. Yeah.
It's not the final key art. So you're seeing this movie in its sort of native form. I finished a movie, now let's see it in front of an audience. But how were you able, did you get, like, I know I have friends, first of all, I have friends who are Canadian filmmakers, and they say that they admire American independent filmmakers because in Canada, you take your movie, you go in front of the Canadian Film Board, and if you don't get the money, well, then you just don't make the movie.
Yes.
But American independent filmmakers, you get turned down here, you go to the next thing, you go to crowdfunding, you go to whoever can get the money. It's just how much money do you have? Like American independent. Now that's just my Canadian filmmaker friends, so they admire the stick-to-itiveness, I guess, of the American independence. But how were you able to pull it together? Was it a Canadian Film Board thing, or did you?
Well, you're talking a little about Telefilm Canada, and Telefilm is a tough nut to crack. They've been around for a long time. In Canada, we're 1% of our own box office in our own country. 1%. That's family and friends. That's really not wider family. And usually take the one film Goon, that, you know, so Jay Baruchel's Goon, which like did a lot, and you take that
I love
out of
that
there.
movie.
It's a great film. But you take that one film out of there, and that number drops. Like a lot. That you need the one big film to get to 1%. We sit beside this behemoth of a country that just delivers us a ton of product. And you're right. A lot of filmmakers up there, they go and they pitch to Telefilm. If Telefilm doesn't say yes.
You didn't do that. What was your pathway?
This was... it's private investment. I found somebody. I just finished a doc about New York.
An angel
West.
investor.
I found somebody who I'd been working with on the most Canadian project you could think of. It wasn't a documentary. It was a scripted family film called Kayak to Klemtu, and it's lovely. But it's like a First Nation family film that takes place in the Great Bear Rainforest, which I think the people who watch Longmire would really love. Totally. But I wrote that for like a couple of years and got really close with the producer of that. And she came to New York to see my previous documentary called The Missing Ingredient, which was about old school New York restaurants, the kind of places that Sinatra would have gone to. And again, it's like TV shows. It was this thing that this community of people really loved that was being taken from them, and how they felt when a restaurant closes and how it's a loss of a community again. And she came to New York, and she's a very outdoorsy Canadian person. And we're standing in the aisle after. She said, "This is really great. I love it." So as we went and talked back in Toronto, and it's like, "What do you want to do next?" And I had this research, because I thought of this as a TV show initially. I thought each episode, 22 minutes with each campaign being a show.
That would be perfect. I think you could actually still do that.
I hope.
In a way, the documentary is like a pilot for an ongoing series that Netflix... Adam, call your friends at Netflix.
You have friends there, right?
You have friends there, yeah.
I think so.
I got some friends.
They should see that. I think Netflix will be like, this is a commercial for us. So it's...
So you're in the midst of doing all this research.
And I had it all. So the Chuck campaign, I had seen... I mean, it wasn't hard. If you pay attention like you do to entertainment business, you saw this big peanut campaign that saved Chuck. You heard about the Tabasco sauce campaign that, saved Roswell. You saw these things, and you're like, oh, cute. But I thought there was something beyond the oh, cute. There's something, the same way that regular people don't normally campaign to like get someone elected, that all of a sudden just do because they believe in this candidate. Something connects with them, and I thought there's something deeper here. There's something deeper in the way I appreciate television. It's not simplistic. I know that whole like passive viewer thing, and I'm thinking like, this is not passive viewership. This is aggressive viewership.
Yeah.
This is give us more representation, give us more of these characters, give us more of these stories. And so when I started calling people, I had like, why? My first question is always, why do you like this show? What was it that made you decide fight for this show? And there was no cynicism. It was like, well, I know you get your name in the paper. I know CNN covered that thing with Chuck with Zachary Levi, and I wanted to be on that too. No. I had to have more of the show. This is it. So I thought these stories, when I hear someone tell me about something they love, I think that's just the most fascinating thing in the world. That's what word of mouth and why I almost do or read or see or attend anything is word of mouth. You're talking about your friends in Longmire. Mm-hmm. It's all word of mouth. The world is this community of people that you know well, you exist for this little brief time, all the things that are recommended to you and you could recommend to others, and then that's it. And you hope that those recommendations, the people around you recommend the good things. And so I wanted to sort of feature the people, the highest recommendations who I knew made television better. Every fan who's ever fought for a show has made Game of Thrones possible, has made The Sopranos possible, because they let networks know and the decision makers and other showrunners who were seeing these shows being canceled and saying, Homicide was going to be canceled, Seinfeld was going to be canceled, and it took people hanging in there. And so they make television better. They deserve their due. And that's why I do apologize that they're not all covered. Everyone fighting right now for Shadow Hunters, who calls themselves the Shadow Family, Shadow Fam, the Lucifams, the Lucifer fans who got their show back. Your family, that's what the Christmas photos that you would put up on the Twitter, on Twitter with like the photos of everybody on the thing. It's like, Merry Christmas, everybody. And like, 1,000 people liking and retweeting and wishing each other Merry Christmas. That's the Longmire family, and they call themselves that. That's incredible.
Wow. That also kind of segues into where your documentary started at conventions, because there's a whole business of conventions just related to specific shows. I mean, they even did a whole convention just for the TV show The Office.
Yep. So,
and they do these things where I forget the company that puts them on, but they will do like Supernatural Con, and
that's huge, that show.
And a Walking Dead convention, and it's just it's a whole convention just dedicated to one show.
Yeah,
it's I mean, because your documentary started filming at WonderCon when I was at the LA Convention Center that
2016.
The 1 year.
Yeah,
it was the 1 year that it was at LA Convention Center when the Anaheim Convention Center was being rebuilt or refurbished or something. I only recognize it because I've been to a lot of conventions at LA Convention Center, but. It's amazing the number of fandoms that are represented, and of course, those conventions started out like being about Star Trek. Star Trek really created the conventions.
Well, there were sci-fi conferences,
sci
conventions,
fiction,
and then Star Trek.
And Star Trek kind of became a big part of it, and now it's sort of it's definitely a loose interpretation of what shows now are represented at places like San Diego Comic-Con, where they bring on like the entire cast and something like a Breaking Bad. I mean, there's like the Venn diagram of shows. They just like it's moved beyond genre. Is I guess my point there.
They can connect so easy now. They want to be. Television is isolating. It's really isolating. You sit there and you kind of do it by yourself in the dark. There's only one shot. We had a full scene, but there's really only one or two shots in the film of the way Kaylee, who's the young girl fighting for person of interest. And you see her with her laptop open, her cell phone in her hand, and the television screening first run. So she's watching this instead of like the way I used to watch TV. Mom, I know I might need to do something, and I know you might need me for something for the next hour. This isn't the hour. This is the hour I will be downstairs watching V. I will be downstairs to find out whether Diana is going to move the ships from the other side of the moon and come and I would explain to her so she understood how important it was for me to watch this 1 hour and not be bothered. I didn't want the phone to ring. We had two phones, my mom's business line and the other line. It rang. Somebody pick it up. I would scream at the top of my lungs. I needed to be focused because it wasn't on again. We had a beta machine that didn't record for some reason, so I couldn't even record it and watch it later. It had to be live. And now Kaylee is sitting there watching a show and I'm like, this is the way you want to watch television? She has the laptop giving her the feed of what fans are saying while she's using the cell phone to rhyme in. Like, did you see that? Oh my gosh. It's like, and I'm like, wow, she's just a part of a family. And that's what they're fighting for. They love the show. They love the show. Longmire people love the show. But they're fighting to keep hold of the people that they love the show with, that they watch it with weekly, and it can go either to Facebook or any of the social platforms and talk about it immediately. It's not water cooler anymore. Like cell phones are your water cooler, and they're not the next day. They're instantaneous.
And it's keeping family together. It's keeping that family together. That's exactly what it is. And you guys were talking earlier about the point about how fans sort of, these people come into their rooms. You had said they come into your houses and that you know them. They become your family. Every time I post on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, something about my life, something just completely unrelated to Longmire, there are hundreds of comments of people that say, "Oh, Ferg," which is my character. "Oh, Ferg, well, you'll always be Ferg to us," or, "That's such a Ferg thing to do." And there really is this need to keep the story going, even when it's not, to keep it going, and even though it's not there. And I think that need is also what has driven some of these campaigns too.
Yeah, and you do have a conference. You have that Longmire Days, right?
Yeah, once a year.
People go to. Was it Wyoming?
It's in Wyoming,
Buffalo, Wyoming, right?
Yeah,
which is where the books, because it's based on books. And
Craig Johnson, who wrote the books, he lives there. Yeah,
it's amazing to see these people come from all over. It's their yearly vacation, and they come to talk. I mean, I think there's definitely a book contingent, huge, but it's the TV show, and you're all there, and the parties in the streets, and it's just
wild. It's 8,000 to 10,000 people. It's unbelievable. It's for a whole weekend, and you're seeing, and they've become family and friends now. So, for instance, I'm a huge Vikings fan, and there's a Vikings game that they came here to play the Rams, and I was trying to get tickets.
NFC Central?
Yeah.
Detroit Lions.
So are you really?
Yeah. I'm from Detroit.
This has been great.
Toronto Argonauts? Anybody watch CFL? Toronto Argonauts? Nope, nobody? Okay.
No, but so... I fly home for the games or whatever, but I was supposed to get tickets to the game here. I couldn't get them. The person who was going to give them to me didn't give them to me. So I'm like, the morning I found out I couldn't get it, I go online, and on my Instagram messages, I get a message from Kim Turner, who is a police officer in California, in a town in California, about an hour away or so, who has come to Longmire Days 4 to 5 years in a row, who I know personally, who every time I see her, along with hundreds and hundreds of others, I give hugs to, and I recognize them. We've talked. We have memories together. We have experiences together. She has messaged me saying, "Hey, Adam, I have Rams tickets. I can't go. I would like you to have them if you want them." And
wow.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? I was literally just getting online to find some tickets." And she has season tickets, and she gave them to me. She's like, "You've been so kind to me and us and all of us, and I want to give this to you." And she gave me her 2 tickets for the game, and I went, and there's this just community of, if I get a message from a fan that I know I've met and spent time with, I message them first. I message back to them. It means something because I'm going to see them come August in Wyoming, and we're all going to rejoice in this reunion together over this story that we were all a part of, that we all had something to do with, that still lives. It still continues.
Amazing.
What I also love about the doc is how it really sort of tracks the history of these things, starting with Bjo, and how even the technology, how the methods, things that worked, didn't work. Some of the whole thing with Chuck and Subway. I thought that was great.
That's amazing.
That was an amazing story. But it's funny because you and I, Michael, we might be around the same age. I used to record with a cassette recorder TV shows. The Planet of the Apes television show, episodes of the Flash Gordon serial, SNL, Star Trek episodes. It was a cassette recorder from Sears.
Wow.
That I would record shows.
Just the audio?
Just the audio.
Wow.
This is before VCRs.
Yeah.
And then of course, VCRs. I had a VCR that could record off television. I had a VHS.
Nice. The family stuck with Beta for so long.
Why did they stick with Beta? You're a TV fan. What?
They stuck with Beta and it was one of those top-load metal machines that looks like the size of a Volvo, and you had to slam it down, and then you hit the button. And then once the record button, it's like, what do you need to record for? Television's on all the time. It was still good enough to go rent at a Blockbuster. So that was fine. I said, yeah, it's good enough to rent a Blockbuster, except Blockbuster is not carrying Beta. So it's just it finally, late VCR, we finally got VHS, and it just opened my world up, So, you talk about the way things changed. So we started with Star Trek. Then we go to Dorothy, and she saves Cagney Lacey.
Well, you should explain Dorothy and what for everyone listening, who she is and what she accomplished.
She's the surprise of this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone else saved a single show. That's essentially in this film. The Trimbles became world famous for saving a show. They're still, when Star Trek Discovery premiered in LA, they bring the Trimbles out to walk the red carpet with Bill Shatner. They're on the carpet right behind him because they know Bill's not Captain Kirk and known to the world unless that 3rd season of Star Trek happened. The Trimbles saved it. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it. That CBS, making All Access anchors it with a Star Trek show because they need subscribers. And it was a toss-away show 50-something years ago. Yeah. And then we go to Dorothy Swan. Swanson, who really was this housewife and school teacher in Michigan, in just outside Detroit, in Hillsdale, Michigan, and she loved Cagney and Lacey. And she loved the show. She loved the characters so much. She was seeing as a woman, as a housewife, these incredible, accomplished police officers who are job first, like they're being cops. And now we're so used to seeing that. We see that in Longmire. We see that with Katie Sackhoff's character. We see cops all the time.
But that was groundbreaking at the time because
Hugely.
these were real women. They weren't this some caricature or girlfriend or wife.
No.
They were the leads in the show and who cared.
They were the cops.
Yeah. They were the cops. So
Yeah.
It was a groundbreaking show to begin with. So a challenge.
And they canceled it. They canceled after a season. And women across America, led in large part by Dorothy Swanson with the help of Barney Rosenzweig, the producer, who is very active in it as well, which you need, they fought. They really fought. And they got local newspapers to write a lot about it. And then, of course, they got the summer reruns, so people had really heard about it. And so they started to watch it. And they saved Cagney and Lacey, which went on for like 5-6 more seasons and won like Emmys for show and actress. I mean, just really big stuff. And then she realized that maybe she had a gift for this, that saving shows is something that she's sort of good at. And she heard of another woman who was trying to save, or at least get viewers for St. Elsewhere, And that's another groundbreaking, incredible, rich character show about doctors. And then they formed this group called Viewers for Quality Television, and Barney gave them another sort of mention in the newspapers to like there's this new organization, they help save Cagney and Lacey, and they're going to try and help save other shows. And then she's the surprise of the movie because you think her story's over the same way some of these other campaigns end. You don't necessarily come back to them again. You're like, oh, that woman's back. I wonder what she's talking about. And then all of a sudden, you realize she started this organization that had thousands of members and had an annual award show that had everybody who's absolutely anybody in the industry went to her award show. Seinfeld went to award show. All 4 network presidents would sit on a panel. They wouldn't even talk to each other anymore. They sit on a panel because there was no Comic-Con. There was no ATX festival. There was no Banff festival. There was no television wasn't celebrated back then. There was like actors who did television and actors who did movies, and you never sullied yourself by doing television. It was on your way down. You do television on the way up or the way down. And now you have McConaughey doing television and winning the Emmy on the same year he wins the Oscar. It's only really Tom Cruise. I keep saying he's the only one that hasn't done television of all the sort of biggies. I'm sure there's others, but he feels like I'm the film star and that's where I stay. But Meryl Streep, Pacino, De Niro, they all flip back and forth now. It's where the work is. It's where the best storytelling is, And so Dorothy did this incredible thing, award shows, and saved multiple shows, supported shows, everything that was any show you've probably heard of in like X-Files, Brooklyn Bridge, I'll Fly Away, Frank's Place. Designing Women was one of their first campaign that really put them on the map as an organization. She was everything, and then the internet came and destroyed it. There was no more VQT. It was like internet because she was this book club for all good television. If you generally liked good television and believed the networks need to put better television on, you were a member of VQT. You got their monthly newsletter. You wrote your comments. Just the same. You're talking about Starlog. How you'd write your thing, and then 2 months later you'd see your note printed, and you're like, that was fast. It was like 2 months later from like sending the letter in and getting printed, and that was what it was like. And then people who just like X-Files, just go to X-Files at fox.com/X-Files. And if you like Beauty and the Beast or if you liked any of those shows. And so it was hard to be an umbrella group for all good television when the internet, but then things got really fancy with the internet, A lot of shows could save.
And just for our listeners, a newsletter is like, it's a thing, it's like the internet, but on really thin slices of wood. That's what a newsletter, that's the way Film Thread started as a newsletter, actually. It was, the first issue was like this little 6-page zine, right?
Yeah.
So just seeing her story was amazing. It was right in my backyard. I didn't realize in Michigan.
Right.
I grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan. So,
so your papers were very important to her. They really published her. That those columns that you were seeing in the Detroit Free Press were just being picked up, and people were talking about them. And then a TV Guide. How powerful TV Guide was. TV Guide was huge, and so she made these relationships with the people at TV Guide when it was time to save a quality show, because critics want to watch good shows. There wasn't a lot on. And they wanted the things they had to watch and review to be good.
Well, it's interesting because you point that out in one section of the doc that there were 100 shows on television. Like all of television had 100 shows. And I think one of the shows you talked about was number 99 on that list.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. I don't even know where you would get a number of the number of shows that are currently on, if you include all of television, all original programming on streaming services, what would you even guess that it is?
Well, that guy from, I'm trying to remember the network, always gives a yearly address on television. I think it was 555 scripted only. So scripted only. That's before factual, before, Shark Stand and all that sort
reality
of stuff.
TV
Reality
and all
TV, HGTV. So we're talking over 5.5 times just scripted. And he was saying, as you said in the documentary, Tom Fontana, all in. It was 100 shows on television, all in.
Yeah.
And St. Elsewhere was 99, and Cheers was 100.
Well, Cheers. St. Elsewhere was a phenomenon at the time that it was on. I mean, it was a much more serious show.
Yeah.
I mean, it approached that type of show differently and
semi-serialized too.
Yeah.
You have to always so people are like, what's the commonality between the shows that people fought for? Because there aren't a lot for sitcoms. Designing Women was different. You saw 4 women owning a business, and they were talking about big topics, AIDS at a time when nobody was, there were big stuff being said there. So there was a lot to sink your teeth into. But most sitcoms are, for the most part, background. They're procedural. There's they have an episode. The shows that people fight for have usually either fully serialized or semi-serialized. Like Longmire's semi-serialized, but there's still a case of the week sort of thing. For the most part, sometimes it's just the serialized story, right?
Mostly, yes. I'd say about 80% of the shows were like that, yeah. Semi-serialized.
Semi. And that's really important. People needed to see what was happening to these characters, and they need to know what's going to happen next. And that you can really sink your teeth into. So you don't see fan campaigns for Law & Order was canceled. Law & Order was on for 20 plus years. It had a really good opportunity to get a huge fan base. Right. But when it canceled, people were like, I didn't even realize it was canceled. I just watched it at TNT at 11 a.m. That. I thought that's when it originally aired. It was 11 a.m. on TNT. It's like, no, it is NBC at 9 p.m. on Thursdays. But that's the commonality, and that lets fans really sink their teeth into these characters. And it's the smaller shows where the communities connectivity can be really high. Now, of course, we say smaller shows. We look at the numbers now. Like when they burned Person of Interest off in the summer, burned it off. They're like, CBS had no interest in the show anymore. Here's 2 a night. Isn't that great? Very nice of them. 2 a night. And they still 7 million people are watching it.
Yeah.
Most networks would kill for 7 million people to watch something. But when you've got NCIS and 20 million different people watch every week because someone might skip an episode and come back, that's fine. But again, when an NCIS finishes up, there's not a fan campaign for it. They're just different commitment levels.
Now, the film is premiering in front of an audience tonight in Los Angeles. What are you hoping that an audience will get out of seeing this film? Aside from the fact there's one thing I can guarantee, they're going to be highly entertained because it's fast paced, so much information, covers so much ground, 50 plus years of TV history, bringing us to the present. What do you want audiences to get out of the movie?
Well, I know tonight there's going to be a lot of special guests. So we've got, I think, 50-50 probably between people who worked on the television and people who are just fans of TV. And of course, there'll be other people who walk up. So it's just a lot of people who worked on Chuck are going to be there. People who worked on Longmire are going to be there. People who are just a part of these shows who have an opportunity to come out and be like, yeah, we deserve to be on a big screen. It looks good, even if it's just a clip from their show, but it's the people they worked with. And that moment that they felt like failures was rewarded. It's a tough, I think the big question is, how'd you get all these big people like Scott Bakula and Zachary Levi and Adam Bartley and all these people to come be in your movie? It was the easiest thing in the world to ask them because this made them feel like, I felt like a failure. My show was canceled, or I was being fired on this slow death where we knew and we still had to keep filming. And now people are fighting for it. It was good, wasn't it? It was way better than what they're saying, that network.
Well, and one great thing about this film, about what you've done, is it's very hard without just saying it, and you do say it a lot when you are in a place like myself, who, I had just gotten myself a new fancy apartment. I had just went all in after the 3rd season, and I was literally at the ATM when I got the call that the show was canceled. I think I say that in our interview, but. And at that moment, when you see how this can really work, how people can really come together, there's not enough thank yous it really is also, you help keep me employed.
Yeah.
It's that too. And really, I don't think fans really see that. They think, oh, you'll go on to something else or whatever. It's like, no. Being on a TV show for 6 years and then not being on a TV show like that is very different. It's just in life, how you go about sort of making money and finding a way through this and that. So with this show, with this film, it's this opportunity for me with my fans to say thank you, to say, this is about you. This isn't about us and the show and the characters. It's about what you did and how you helped to be a part of it, which is so unique just to have that ability to do that, which is so cool.
That's interesting. I'd love to see a dollar figure for all the show's fans saved, jobs saved.
Jobs saved.
Kids put through school, braces, gas in car, like what it means to the technicians. That's that one scene in the film where Greg Pledgeman shows you around the empty offices of POI. That's the one behind the business scene I was able to sort of like just keep in the film. And he just points to the wall and he says, this was the pictures of babies. This was the photos of all the babies that were born while we were on the show.
Yeah.
And he goes, and we had a particular fertile writing staff. And but that's like, they're a family too. The fans are a family, but behind the scenes, they're like in this little battle together, trying to get things done against weather and light and budget and a million other things.
You're very close.
And you must know your gaffers. You must know
We're all very close.
All close.
We will always be close.
And these fans kept them together. The fans kept them together for 50-some plus years, and they're continuing to fight and keep these people together. They deserve to be. It's funny. I go to these documentary festivals, and so it'd be me and a genocide film, like back to back. Me and like a transgender military film. And so I'll always be like, "Oh, what's your film about?" And they'll tell me it's like, I sometimes feel like I'm just going to go over here. That's fine. Like I know what my thing. And then I'm like, no. That's important. This is important. These are important things. People watch a lot of television. I feel I've spent my whole life defending. It's like people are like, why would you make a movie people fight for television? There's nothing more important. It's like, not to me, and not to the people who are making love of those shows. It's incredible. Entertainment is incredibly important. And then I'll say, how much TV do you watch a day? Like how much is your TV never on? You know, they're like, oh no. It's like, what do you watch? It's like, well, it sounds like you watch about 3.5 to 4 hours of television a day. So that's about what, a sixth of your life is watching television. How much of it is spent thinking about these important subjects?
It's become a top 5 first date topic now in this era. You know, cool. Sure. Where are you from? All right, what TV do you watch? Oh, really? I watch that too. Oh, yeah, okay. No.
Yeah, what are you binging?
Wow, I never thought of that. It's a connecting thing. Like if you like the same shows, binge watch the same shows. Maybe we'll get to or like I've gotten great recommendations from friends, and I have one that. Longmire, I have to fulfill that commitment to my friend to finally watch it. She's been bugging me for years.
That's the other piece of it too, is that what's changed even in the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years is that, like, you know, you're on, it went from, you know, your friends being like, yeah, sorry, I haven't watched your show yet. And you being like, yeah, how come you're not supporting me to now, which is like, oh, I get it. Like, I still haven't watched this than your show and that show that you did and that thing. I am so behind. There's no way anymore in this saturated market to watch it all, or that's really all you would be doing.
All you would be doing. I said, if I took my 10 best friends and they wrote down their 5 best shows, there'd probably definitely some overlap, but I said, I'm only going to watch, I could never watch those. I could never watch the 5 best shows of my 10 best friends. I could never possibly get through. It took me years to find Preacher. Preacher's insanely good. And Preacher's like just watching a movie every week. It's phenomenal. How did I wait too long to see it? Right. Making this movie is what I hope people do is they finish watching it because it comes out next week on iTunes and all sorts of VOD platforms, and like, that's great. Quantum Leap. Go right back onto iTunes, go back into Amazon. Episode 1, Quantum Leap. Start to watch it. Find St. Elsewhere. Go into Netflix and watch Longmire. This movie has so many opportunities for you to start with this movie and then continue to watch great television. This should just be just a big word of mouth. If these people all fought to save these shows because it was so important to them, this is a good spot for you to start television.
The documentary is United We Fan. And it's, as you pointed out, Michael, it's out on VOD, DVD. You must see it. It made me, it's weird, it made me want to watch TV after I finished watching your doc. I want to go off and watch some TV.
Sweet.
And, you know, Adam, I think Longmire might be done, but maybe there's a spinoff called Longmire. There could be. Where can we find you guys on social media? Does the movie have a Twitter and
Insta, Twitter, Facebook, United We Fan doc, and there's a community of people that love TV, not just this film, but love TV, who come there, whose campaigns are not represented in this film, who come there just to talk. They're like, thank you so much for being such a voice for positivity. You know, there's all this focus on toxic fandom. It's like, that's not what we saw here. That's not what this is. This is, we have that little DVD extra scene where you get a chance to hear a little bit about what it's like. fandom is so positive. When you talk about being at that 2016 WonderCon, you could be in a Star Trek uniform and walk through that thing, and you're passing people in a zillion other uniforms. You're all together. You're a big family.
See, that's what I've always loved about like nerd culture is at least my experience of nerd culture has been people are very accepting, right? Like I'm into certain shows, I'm not into certain shows, but the fact that people are so passionate, they're here to celebrate it. I love that kind of acceptance that you find in the nerd community. I think the toxic element is a very, very small percentage, a loud one that's given more attention than they deserve. Adam, where can we find you?
I'm on Adam L. Bartley on Instagram, Adam Bartley on Twitter and Facebook. You can find me there. And I did want to say to all the Longmire fans that might be listening to this, hopefully are listening to this, that the idea of movies is still on the table. It is still being talked about. It is still being discussed. And do not lose hope on it. Keep tweeting.
That's the chatter.
Keep going.
I love that idea of a show that like has, I guess, gone through seasons. You could do a movie. They did that with The Office. They did the Christmas special.
Yeah.
It's the British Office.
They do those Christmas specials on British shows all the time. Like even
with
Downton Abbey, Doctor Who, all of that's their template. Make 6, do a Christmas episode. Make 10, do a Christmas episode.
Well, yes. Will there be a Christmas episode or it would be a Christmas
huge.
movie? A Christmas
movie. It would
movie.
be huge. Well, and the thing is, too, is we have 6 great seasons of TV that Warner Horizon owns and has. Right now they're on Netflix, but it's not a bad sort of sell with this huge fan base that loves it and can't wait for something else to say, okay, here's 6 seasons of TV and a couple of movies.
Yeah.
And people would freak out, and I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it. The producers want it. It's when that is, and everybody would do it. All the actors would do it. And if that is all there, it's just a matter of time. And that's exciting.
I will just say, if you've seen this documentary, United We Fan, there's a part of the movie, Veronica Mars, where they do a Kickstarter, which they got, $2 million in one day?
One day.
I think it was like, not even a day, it was like 16 hours.
I think of what Longmire could do to raise money. I think of, and it's Warner. Is it Warner?
Warner.
So it's the same company, Warner, that owned the rights to Veronica Mars. They got almost 7 by the end, I think, or
7 million,
or 6 or 7 million in the end. But they're in one day. When I look at the numbers that actually follow Longmire, and Longmire said, the money that you would raise to do it, these movies, and that went from a movie, now it's a show again. I'm actually going to set tomorrow to Veronica Mars is being relaunched on Hulu. They're all back. It's a Veronica Mars revival. So there were a series. Years between a movie being raised money by the fans, then years later back to television or Hulu, back to streaming again. It's amazing.
Yeah. This is breaking. Where can fans go to contribute to the Longmire movie?
Just
crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, just keep going to the
you guys buy the DVDs.
Site.
That's what blows my mind. The DVDs. So you're saying that people don't want to just find streaming. That's why our movie is on DVD. It's for Longmire fans,
right?
Because I said they
buy DVDs.
They buy DVDs.
They're old school. Yeah,
they want that, and they want us. That's why I said let's work really hard in the extended Longmire scene, and then we're like let's work hard in all these scenes. But the Longmire scene is like twice the length because we're like they deserve to see more of this incredible story because they did something they never do. Fans are on the internet already who mobilize on the internet and they're already tweeting and already there. Yeah, they might be on a little bit more, but they're already there. The fact that these fans were not on the internet and learned how to use the internet because that was the modern way to do it, and that they were the first really to save to a streaming service like that. Right. It's crazy. It's crazy that worked out that way. It's crazy that it was as successful, and then changed Netflix business model, so they're starting to do like these other shows. It's amazing that tactile ownership is still very important within fandom. People, once you stop having to buy the DVDs of all the box sets because everything's out streaming for you, you're selling more action figurines, you're selling more of the the costumes and stuff. But DVDs and collectibles are still a huge thing in my life. My family still blows. I gave my Christmas list just before I came out here, and they're like, "You still want DVDs?" Yes, I want. I still want Avengers. I still want these things. I still want them at my shelf. So I had to make sure with this film it hit DVD.
Also, you can't. There's no guarantee that the streaming service will continue to have that series. Yeah. They go off, they retire content. I mean, those deals are for a certain window of time. It's not
Chuck fans went nuts when it left Netflix. They tried to bring back Chuck, and it wasn't bring back Chuck the show. Bring back the show that Chuck already exists, put it back on Netflix. Zachary Levi was fighting for them to try to just keep it on Netflix because where are we going to find it? It's you should just buy the DVDs, but it's just incredible the way it's like, what if there's a power outage? I still have a plug-in DVD television combo where I can on the power outage, I can still watch Sopranos. I could still watch United We Fan or Longmire because I had to buy the seasons to actually get the clips into the film. So it's like, I think it's important to be ready for any major power outage. Buy the DVD.
And we're Film Thread on everything. I'm just, because we're getting the social media plugs in. So we're Film Thread on everything. I cannot thank you guys enough for coming in to talk to me today. This was amazing. I'm so happy that this doc was made. Just so happy that fans are given their due. And Adam and Michael, thank you for being on the Film Threat podcast.
Thank you. Real thrill. Thank you.
Word has come down that the show is going to be canceled.
I said, we shouldn't let this happen. I should know better to say that to her.
That's where the fans became fans.
They feel as though it speaks to them in a way that no other show ever has.
We all became this massive family of thousands of strangers.
Jericho,
Chuck,
Longmire,
Veronica Mars,
Roswell,
Arrested Development.
Person of Interest, Cagney and Lacey.
How many letters did you write?
Probably 500. It was over the top. It was way over the top.
People are savvy. I don't think they're going to wait around and hope that the things that they love stick around. I think that they're going to have some contingency plans, and our fans did.
TV has a profound, long-lasting effect on people.
It's not just a TV show. It's being involved.
When it first got put up, a lot of people were like, oh, you're not going to even make it to 10,000 signatures. And then once we got it there, I was like, okay, this is actually happening.
They wanted the studio to know how important that show was.
Fans do it out of the passion that they feel for the show. I don't know if they realize how much impact it has.
As an actor, it makes you hopeful, like, well, this has to work. Look at these people, they're amazing.
So everybody buy a cheap pack of nuts and write it to CBS and say, we think that canceling Jericho is nuts.
50,000 pounds. That's crazy.
We had 23 consecutive weeks trending on Twitter.
I was reasonably confident, yet I never in my wildest dreams thought it would take off like it did.
2 million!
I was just like, yeah, this thing is actually gonna happen now.
When you feel there's a movement out there, you feel validated and you feel, hey, we're doing something good.
You think they owned part of the show. I'm not sure they didn't.